Hello, hello. I'm gonna go on my YouTube because last time I made an epic fail when I had Tyranny on here, and I did not stream to the platforms I said I was going to stream to. So I don't want to make that mistake again. And since I'm a one-man show, all right, I'm in there. Okay, cool. Want to make sure I can see where anybody is chatting to. So I'm gonna hold for a second. Let me make sure I can see the chat in the YouTube and the chat on my Facebook. But honestly, guys, if you are in there, you are in the Facebook group, you are able to chat. And I'm basically using StreamYard, and StreamYard is a way to stream to multiple platforms. And with that, it asks for your permission so that I can see your faces through StreamYard and your names. And that helps me so that I can, interact. So, hello, hello, how are you? I see you're there. So, if you guys are there, if you don't mind saying hi in the chat, so I can see who's here with me. And also, I would love to know what your position is. If you're an assistant principal, how many years have you been an assistant principal? If you're an aspiring assistant principal, what's your current role? If you are doing something completely not those, tell me what you do. What is your position? How are you a leader? And if you want to tell me what state you're in, I always think that's like really cool to see where everybody's from. I'm down in Florida, so just throw that out there. I'm in Florida, so I am hot a lot, and it's fun times. So tell me what you do, how many years you've been an assistant principal, and anything else you want to share. Yes, awesome. Aisha, you are going to be an assistant principal. So have you started? You started on July 1st? Or are you starting in August? I know many people are still on summer break. Some people actually, I think it's crazy, but some people already went back to school. Like they had pre-planning this week, and that is, I mean, we're next week. That's right, you are in Florida. I do see your posts. I see your post, and I'm like, oh man, she's at the beach and she's living her best life. I love it. Stuff like that makes me happy. Maritza, your first year, did you finish your first year or are you starting your first year? August 1st. Oh my gosh, are you excited? Are you guys really excited? Anxious? You started in June. Beautiful. So you've got like a little foot wet, barely, right? I know it's like, I mean, the end of the school year is completely different from the start of the school year. I've had assistant principal friends who started in the middle of the year, and then we start this next year, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" And I'm like, "Girl, you've been in AP from oh, that's right. You missed August, September. Those months are completely different. July, so awesome. All right. So if you're in the chat, please tell me where you are from. I got to remember to look at YouTube. Where you are from, what your position is, how many years you've been in that position. If you're an aspiring assistant principal, this is a great place for you to be as well. If you're a new assistant principal, obviously this is for you. If you are a veteran assistant principal, I would love for you guys to give some feedback in the chat as well, because these are my tips. These came from Joyce. This is my experience, but we all have different experiences. So I can give you some tidbits, but other assistant principals obviously can give you some as well. So if you're there, please feel free to co-sign, add some elaboration to what I'm sharing this evening. I don't want to hold you guys too long, but I'm telling you, I've tried to record a YouTube video, and that is really stressful. I would rather go live than record a video, and I don't know what it is, but just doesn't work for me. So I'm just gonna go live because I put this off so long, and I don't want to put it off anymore because you guys are about to get into your school buildings, or you're in your school buildings and the teachers aren't there yet, and you are anxiously waiting for them to come. So tonight, that's what I'm going to do. Just give you my 5 tips and whatever else I decide to share, because sometimes I go off on a tangent for the new assistant principal. So I'm glad that you're here. And I'm Joyce. I am the CEO of Alve Pro. I created Alve Pro a year ago because I am an assistant principal And I felt like we were missing something, and I wanted to just be a person to help because I didn't necessarily have that when I became an assistant principal or on the journey into assistant principal. I didn't have the network, the collaboration, the support, the professional development. I just didn't have it like I would have liked it. So that's where I am, and that's why I'm here. So we have a Facebook group, Assistant Principals Collaborate, and we have over 4,000 assistant principals, aspiring assistant principals, a few that have moved on to become principals now and directors. And we just like to collaborate and share and support one another. I also have a true belief in the mentorship of assistant principals. So I created a mentorship manual, elevating the AP a year ago, and I just sat on it, and so now I'm just sharing it out. So realized that can be used for mentorship programs. It can be used for a cohort if you're creating some type of cohort in your district where you have a bunch of or a few APs that you meet monthly or however you meet, what that looks like. It's a great tool. So I'm going to drop that in the chat later. But let's get started because you're here for these 5 tips, okay? So my goal is to support you. So whatever information I have, I would love to be able to share with you. And that's where these tips come in. I'm trying to show my screen. It's different in here, so bear with me. All right. Bam, I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna add here. Here are the 5 tips. You've probably seen this graphic if you follow me anywhere because I posted it like 3 weeks ago, and it was just something that came off the top of my brain. Like, what did I need when I was moving into my assistant principalship in July? Because that's when I started in July. And that's where these tips came from. But I only gave you like a little snippet. So I wanted to elaborate. So let me know if I'm talking too fast. I don't want to take your time, but I also have a lot to share. Okay, so this is something you might do in a training where you are trying to figure out what type of leader you are or what type of personality you have. Maybe you've done that north, south, east, west training and you realize, like me, I'm a northeast. I can't remember what that means exactly, but I remember I'm like, I'm not north, I'm not east, I'm not south, I'm like right over here. And you could probably tell what kind of leader I am just if you follow me. But I like the community. I like to work with people. I like the team, the collaborative. I like to figure out what's going on. What do you guys think? And then make a decision. For the most part, I like to have input. So I've learned that about myself and it's helped me as a leader. So my first tip is to go figure out what type of leader you are. Here's why. You are leading a bunch of different personalities. So you have your leadership team, you have your principal, who is going to most likely, it's a very good chance, maybe not, I don't know. For me, we're polar opposites. Polar opposites. And that actually works well in a lot of areas because we balance each other. But I know that about myself, and he knows that about himself. And so we're able to understand, like, if we're coming up with some type of um, like answer or solution to a problem, his solution and my solution may come to the same solution, but we got there a little different, but we understand that about each other. And so we just figure out, okay, these are my thought process, these are your thought process, cool. We agree, moving on. So it's very nice to know that because you're going to be working with your principal very closely. You're also going to be working with a leadership team relatively closely, and you're going to have a bunch of different personalities on your team. And they need to understand you as a leader, and you need to understand them as leaders as well. So when that happens, it's like it's the collective. I put up a quote the other day on Twitter, and it was like, the smartest person in the room is the room, because it's all of you together utilizing your brains, your knowledge, your understandings, and your experiences to come to a solution. But if you don't really understand each other's leadership styles and they don't understand you, you might have some conflict. So it's very good to, one, go figure that out about yourself and then be able to verbalize that. So people know what type of leader I am, and it works well for some people, doesn't work for others, but that is what it is. Also, when you have your friends, like, You want to go and you want to get as many friends and AP friends and leadership friends as you can that you can trust, because you're going to need some advice. So I've had people reach out to me through Facebook for advice randomly. And it's like, that is what this is all about. We have to be able to support each other. But if I'm coming to you with a problem and you're giving me a solution, and your solution is how you would handle it because that's your leadership style, that's not going to necessarily work for me. So understanding what type of leader you are is very, very good. It's very beneficial. It's not necessary, but it's extremely beneficial because it's like what leads you to your leadership philosophy. And I put in a graphic on how to come up with your leadership philosophy, and that helps you to understand you as a leader, and it helps you to be able to verbalize like you and what you believe, okay, and why you do what you do the way that you do what you do. It's actually really beneficial. So next tip 2, and this is what I did today. So some of you have already gone on campus. I'm pretty sure some others have not gone on campus just yet. Maybe you're just getting the job and you haven't even entered into your office, and you probably maybe not even have met your principal. Maybe you have. Whatever that is, wherever you are, I highly suggest that you go and you have a nice sit down, and it's a one-on-one uninterrupted time, especially to come up to like that understanding of what are our goals, what are your goals. So you sit down and you have your notebook, right? And you're taking notes and you are listening intently, because they're going to tell you a lot about themselves in this meeting, and you're going to be able to understand a lot about where you're about to go. So I remember my first meeting with both of my principals. One, it was right after my interview with the deputy superintendent. And that's when we first were able to like sit down and talk for a second. And it was like this. And it was like overwhelming. And it that's not how I wanted that to be, but that's just how it was, right? The second one, we met at Panera, and it was a sit down. And I had my baby, and we talked and talked and talked. And I heard and I listened a lot of what he wanted in an assistant principal, and a lot of what he experienced previously. And it helped me to prepare for what I was getting myself into. So having that dialogue where you're listening, and you're listening for those like key terms, like what they're expecting, some of their troubles or struggles, you want to hear those because you want to be able to come in and help and be a servant, right? And be able to assist so that you can make things go really well and smoothly and better, whatever that is, whatever your goal is, right? You want to be able to have an understanding of some of the things that have not gone right and things that need to go well so that you can go in and help. You're only going to do that by listening and having that time to listen. Once you start, it's going to be like this. You're going to be rolling, rolling, rolling. And I said something today about how you want to have this time to actually sit there and come up with a plan and understand the vision, the goals, the mission, what type of leader he is or she is, how you can assist, what is your role, like what is my role, what's my responsibility, like what do I need to be doing? Because honestly, the tasks are, and this is why I like this, right? Because we go from an instruction to administration. And even though we've had some experiences as an instructional leader, because maybe you're a team leader or you were able to assist if you're a coach with working with parents or creating professional development, when you become an administrator, it's just completely different. You are managing the school. And I say that, even though you do have a principal, I say that because a lot of times we as APs are doing some of the brunt work where it comes to facilities and safety and discipline and managing custodians. Those types of things end up being our tasks. Not always, but you want to be clear on what those are because you don't want to step on anyone's toes. So let's say, for instance, someone's been doing something for years, and here you come and you're thinking, oh, there's like a crack in that system. Let me go fix it. But then that person has been doing it for so many years. And then you go try to fix it and you step on their toes and it goes beeline to the principal. Not a good look. because you didn't establish necessarily that understanding that that's now your role, that is now what you're handling. So you just don't want to put yourself in that position. Now, it's not like it's not going to happen, because it still will in some way, shape, or form, because no one is perfect. But if you kind of are able to say, like, all right, I am doing discipline. Okay, so that means I'm handling all level ones, twos, threes, and fours. Okay, that's me. Got it. I am Title IX coordinator. Perfect. Jot it down, note it, right? Note it, and not only note it, today we worked on an actual who to call when, because it needs to be clear not only to you and your principal, but to your leadership team and then also your teachers. A lot of times they just will shoot to the principal and then it comes right back to you. No fault to them. That was your task. That was your responsibility, right? So it's going to come back to you anyway. So a lot of times you want to make sure that it's clear on what it is that you're responsible for. um, Facilities. There are going to be deadlines. You are going to have, in my district, we're very big, right? We're very large. So we have deadlines and they give you graphics of this is due when, right? As soon as I get those graphics, I'm now moving it over to my calendar. And that's probably the next tip. Let me not go on, right? Let me not, I've got a lot to share, but I'm moving it onto my calendar because I know Joyce is taking care of safety. So I make sure that every safety thing, every training we have, every drill that we have is on my calendar and then on the master calendar. So we're all communicating. So knowing that that's your position is extremely important. But the only time that will be said is a lot of times if you sit down and ask, if you sit down and have those conversations. This is also, and I threw this in here because I'm big on self care. Always practice what I preach. But I do say this, I do set boundaries when it comes to work and home. When I leave work, I leave work. Yeah, when I leave work, I leave work. When I'm home, for the most part, except for my email and my phone, I'm still struggling with that, even though I wrote a blog about it. I'm home and I try to be present at home. So this is the time to put that out there. Say, hey, look, tell them about your family, tell them about the things that you have at home and how important family is, and let them know that you're going to do an amazing job as an assistant principal and you're going to work your tail off. Um, but a lot of times you need that balance. You need that separation because you need to be able to be your best self when you come into the building every single day. And you're not able to do that if you don't set those boundaries. And it's about approach. Some principals are not going to understand that because they don't practice that, but that has nothing to do with you. So you just have to be strong and or kind and understanding in your approach. And if they have something to say, you can just remind the importance of it, right? Just be like, hey, look, this is still something that I need because I need that balance. It's just about open and honest communication. I could talk about that all day, but I won't. If you have any questions, oh, look at Maritza, thank you. Okay, so what would be an appropriate way to ask your principal what your roles will be? I honestly, if you guys are set up in this environment where it's like, hey, I would love to meet with you. I would love to know, what I'm going to be doing. What would you love for me to do? What is it that I can help with? Now that doesn't. I'll tell you. And another thing, a reason why I wanted to do this because I'm going to be relatively honest. I won't be completely honest, but I will be relatively honest. That doesn't work for everybody. Not everyone has the luxury to have a principal that is understanding of that. So, like for instance, I know an AP who started not too long ago, and she asks for tasks, and the principal says, "I got it. I got it. I got it," or "I already did it." Okay, like you can only do so much. But honestly, I think if you come in with the heart and the desire to want to help assist and learn, if they have pushback on that, that's their personal problem. That's an issue that they have, right? But for the most part, as long as you come in and you just say, "Hey, I would love to know, what am I going to be responsible for this year, so I make sure that I am prepared and I take all the trainings that I need, and I would love, just be honest and ask." Like, I don't think that it's an inappropriate question to ask, even just frankly, because you're coming in and wanting to help. But again, You may get someone say, I got it. And what can you do with that? Then you have to figure out how to maneuver through your day and handle situations the best that you can. And unfortunately, that can be very taxing. But I'm pretty sure you're going to be fine as long as you go in and just be open, honest, and ask. Okay. Do you have anything else to add to that? So I don't miss something. Is that okay? Let me know. I'm here for you. Okay. All right. Tip number 3. So in the summer, a lot of times you only have office staff working. You may not have your teachers there. Aisha, she started in June. So I'm assuming that you at least met some of the staff as they were exiting to go on summer vacation, which is nice. I'm sure it was kind of like a flyby, like, oh, hey, girl, hey, nice to meet you. Don't say girl. So when you are on the campus during the summer, you may have limited staff, right? But that's a really good time to make some of these relationships a little more tight with the people that you're probably going to be working with the most, because your office staff, you're going to be with them every day. Like, they're the ones that are handling the situations and streamlining those messages, and making sure the copies are done and making sure the budget, everything is going through your office staff, attendance, all these things, parent calls. And they're the ones that you're working with constantly. So those are the ones you want to know, because you're going to be talking to them all the time, right? And they're the ones that have probably been there for a very long time. Like in my school, I think it's probably like, I don't know, I'm guessing I'm like 16 years old, and quite a few people have been there for 16 years. They know the school. They know all that has been good, bad, ugly, and they have been in the midst of different principal changes, assistant principal changes, cultural shifts. So they're the ones that you really want to talk to. You also want to get to know the people who are the, um, I guess, like I said in the example here, the person that greets the parents that come in, because they're the ones that are talking with the parents on a regular basis. So they know which parents come in and they're hot all the time. They come in, they're already, they're just ticked off for whatever reason. They know the ones who are here ready to help. They know the ones that are probably doing a little bit too much for their child. And so it kind of helps you to understand why their child is behaving the way that they're behaving, things like that. Or when you're making that phone call, hey, look, is this parent, like, should I be like nervous? They know those things. I also like to think about relationships like this. If you establish relationships, it helps you when you do have to make changes or corrections later, because it's not like you're coming at them, it's like you're coming to them. Like, hey, how you doing? Let's, I saw that when I was getting these pink and blue cards that I had doubles of these. So, when you're doing that, if you just make sure, like, if you have a checklist right there with you that helps you to just check off, hey, like, did I make sure I check? It's a different approach. If I don't have that relationship with someone, they may think I'm just coming at them and not coming to them. So you have to take the time to speak to people and get to know them, know names. I learned this, I think, in college. We talked about the importance of knowing names and using people's names, and it's transferred over. I'm still a last namer, so I'm still a Mrs. such and such, Mr. such and such for the most part. But to know their names, know their spouse's names, maybe, definitely know their children's names, right? So when I'm talking to you, I'm asking about your kid by name. So how, or your grandchild by name. It helps them to not see a separation. I'm big on not seeing a major separation. I have a title, I have a job to do. You have a title, you have a job to do. Mine isn't any bigger or better than yours. That's the thought process I like to establish, because I think that that's really important too. And when I'm asking about your children and your family and your weekend and your vacation, then we're establishing that we're all in this together and we're a family, a community. So that's really important. And this is the best time. When I was a teacher, I remember they told me straight out, get to know the secretary and the custodians, because they're the ones that are going to be able to do things that you need to get done. The secretary obviously is the right hand of the principal or the left hand, and you're the right, however you want to see it, right? But they were there before you, most likely. And the custodian obviously is going to be the one that's going to help you lift that heavy desk, or, move something out of your office for you because it's too heavy. And, those are the people that you don't want them to be like, "Ah, here she comes again," or here he comes again. You want them to come like, "Oh, hey, how you doing, Joyce? Well, how can I help you?" That's only going to be done if you take the time to get to know them and to form those relationships. Oh, yeah. So I'm not sure who says this, but will these tips be available on Facebook? Yeah. So this live is going to be there. I don't know how long it lasts. I think it stays in there forever. I couldn't find some old ones, but I'll pin this so you guys can play back. And also there is a graphic in there as well, and I'll repin that one for you guys also. Okay, so we're talking about relationships, and I'm big on being a servant leader because when you are there to help and assist, it makes things so much easier. I would much rather be there to help you organize the cafeteria and clean the cafeteria tables after an assembly than saying, "Okay, yes, would you please clean the tables?" That's just me, because I would like for my staff, my teachers, my custodians, my leadership team, I would like for them to see me as someone who's going to be there helping, because there's going to be times when you need help and you want to be able to have them to call. Okay. So when you establish that, it makes things so much easier. So another thing about relationships is when you are talking to someone, you're seeking to understand, not to be understood. You're a leader, you are an assistant principal now. You make decisions, but they're people. And we treat people like they're people, not like they are a role or position or a worker. We treat them as people. So if you seek to understand and not to be understood, that's another way that will help you to form those relationships, because they'll feel like they can come talk to you. I had a teacher at the beginning of the summer. I'm sorry, I'm fidgety. I don't know why. It's kind of cold in here. And she just came in my office. I was sitting there talking to my principal, and she came in and she started talking about something. And I remembered that her daughter went through something 2 years ago. And even though I may not ask exactly like, "Hey, how's she doing with XYZ?" I ask, "How is," and I use her name. That day, later on, she texted me and she said, "Thank you for always asking about my daughter. That means so much to me. And it helps me to know you care." And in my head, I'm like, like that's just what a person's supposed to do. But to her, she went home and she thought about it. And it touched me. And I said, "You know what? I'm trying to be better as a leader, because no one is perfect, right? But we can take those steps to be servant leaders, caring leaders, and lead from the heart." All right, I don't want to miss anything. Good. So next tip, how you guys doing? You guys doing all right? I know it's a lot. It's a lot, and I have so much more to share, but this I wanted to just, you know, get out there. Okay. Organization. Um, how you're doing great, good. All right, how are you guys doing on organizing your offices? Because now you have walked into this space that is yours. And oh my gosh, that is like one of the best feelings for me, okay? To go into my space and I can make it my own. It's like a classroom. Like you did that in the classroom. You went in and you were like, I have a teacher oh, we hired her. What's today? Today's Monday. We hired this lady Wednesday. Thursday, she's like, "Can I come look at my room?" Absolutely. Because I knew what that was like. I'm like, of course. Because I know now she's anxiously wanting to see the layout. How much storage do you have? What file cabinet? What furniture do I need? You're going through the same thing, right? Exactly. And it's like, "Oh, I have an office. I've always wanted an office." All right. But there's so much more than just those walls, just the furniture, just the filing cabinet, and the awesome office supplies you're going to get. Now we have to think about organizational systems, because, like I said earlier, when it starts, it goes, okay? It's just going, going, going. You get there at 7, at 7:30 maybe. As soon as you walk from your car to the front door, you have not put down your coffee cup or your bag, someone has a question. Someone has something. A sub didn't pick up. We don't have coverage for this. Someone called in sick. They're not coming in. We don't have anyone to cover the cafeteria. What are we going to do? A parent is sitting in the office ready to talk to you because yesterday their kid came home and had a scratch on their knee and no one called them. Or they want something resolved because my child's being bullied and because Johnny picked on him 5 times yesterday and I need this solved right now. That happens. Honestly, that happens a lot. A lot. Or I'm unlocking my door and someone's following behind me and says, "Hey, I know you just got here, but," and you're like, "Yeah, I did." Okay. So now that to-do list that I wrote out yesterday and I said, "This is what I need to do tomorrow because I didn't get it done today," is going to have to take a step back. So now I have not my priorities have shifted, okay? Because there's an emergency or someone needs me right now. And the type of leader I am, it's hard for me to say, I'll get to that later, come back. That happens, but it's harder. So I'm like, okay, what do we need? What do we need? Who needs a sub? Who needs coverage? Okay, this. Then I get to my list. So you have to come up with some type of system that allows you to do that and be flexible. Your list cannot be this long, okay? Your list needs to be priorities, must do's. Remember, we used to do that with our children, our students. These are what you must do, these are what you can do, okay? Because those can do's can be pushed off a little bit longer, but those must do's need to get done. And those must do's have to be must, okay? Because you don't want to have 10 things in your must do. That's not realistic. But if you have these 3 must do's I have to do, it allows you some flexibility in the day. So that's a mindset shift, and that's a visual thing, that's a mind thing that helps you to be able to plan your day and be able to mentally be flexible and not be so overwhelmed. Phone calls. You know how many times, I'll be honest with you, and because no one's perfect, I am not perfect. I have tried phone logs every year for the past 5 years. I start off great, and then something happens. But you know what? This year, I'm trying it again. And you know what I've done? I took one more step to assist myself, accommodate Joyce, to make it happen this year. I added a sticky note above the phone that says, "Write it on the phone list." So far, so good. So far, every phone call that I've had to at least a parent, I'm trying to just focus on parents, has made it on the phone list, phone log. Okay. So taking those steps to think through, all right, this is my idea. This is what I want to do. How am I going to help myself be successful? The same thing with emails, which I could pull up my emails here. But if you're using Outlook, there are ways to set up your emails to help you to be successful. So you're going to get inundated with emails. It's going to be like spam, spam, spam. Absolutely. I'll share my phone log. I've got to figure out where I got it from. I don't remember, but I'll share it. I'll write it down. Okay. And I'll share it with you. It's going to be spam, 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 parent, spam, spam, teacher, 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 spam, someone from the district. So you're going to have so many emails that you're going to have to filter them. And with Outlook, you can do that. I filter all of my emails from my principal into a folder. So whenever he emails me, it goes right over there to administration. There used to be 2 of us for like a year. So whenever it was the 3 of us, 2 assistant principals, we tried that for a year. That would have been nice. So when it was the 3 of us, any communication, it would go into that folder. Anything that says furniture, because I like my teachers to put in their subject line when they need something, what is it that you need? Furniture, repair, things like that. So it'll filter over there. And that's just a request that I've made, especially at the end of the year. Anything that comes from a certain person. So we get newsletters from our district for our deputies from our deputy superintendent. And so I put in the tag deputy superintendent newsletter, and those buzzwords, it transfers that email every week, transfers over to that folder. And it allows me to just mentally organize my thoughts. So I know if it hasn't moved over, it's probably not a priority, and I can probably get to it later. One thing that I remember my first principal suggesting was using that follow up feature in Outlook if you have it, or coming up with some type of follow up procedures because you are going to need to follow up. That was one of my first year learning experiences, is being clear in what you're saying, but also following up to make sure that they didn't walk away confused or you didn't finish something or get something done in time. So coming up with how you are going to follow up is important. And it doesn't mean write it on a sticky note because sticky notes get lost. Sticky notes are great. It goes on a sticky note for me, but it also goes into some type of system. Files, the same way. I'm old school. I cannot get rid of, even my home office, I can't get rid of files. I love file folders. Think about your system. Are you going to use a color code, like some kind of system for these are instructional folders? So anything that has to do with teachers, whether it's a teacher folder because you're doing observations, they're purple for me. Students are red. I know, but they're red because a lot of times with the students, it has something to do with the behavior or something that's important like allergies or a parent 504 meeting or a nurse meeting. That's when I use red. When I have committees, they're kind of those fun ones, like if SAC or my SIP, my school improvement plan, my SAC school advisory committee, um, PTO, our parent teacher organization. Those are fun. I don't know why, but they ended up being the fun ones. Because when you get the fun ones, you can only get so many in a folder. But when you have the regular colors, you get 150 or 200. So the fun ones are committees. Think about that. Also, think about the layout in your office as well, because you're not going to want important folders to be in a file cabinet over there. You're going to want your important folders in a file cabinet right here or right here, right? So that you can just turn and get. Okay. So files, I might have, let me look at it. Filing system. I took a time 2 years ago in a summer and I literally labeled all of my files and then I put them into categories. So assistant principal, I put in assistant principal and I knew that I was putting in there my district meeting folders, my anything that, what was it? My credit card, I put my credit card in there too. My credit card information, things like that that I were important to me, like important like financials and things like that, they went in there. Safety, I put in safety. So my drill schedules, things like that. Now I've moved from that to an ARC system where I have, it's at school, I'm sorry, I was gonna bring things too so you can see them, but I have an ARC system where all of my files are in my ARC folder. It's a planner, and you can get it from Staples or old. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the other one right now. But you can get it from Office Max. So it's just a system where they have those rings, and what that does is it allows you. You got to get the hole punch, right? It's a specific ARC hole punch, but it allows you to punch your stuff and file it right there. And then you can take the folder, the planner with you. That's how I create my planners every year now. I'll just rip out the pages and then put new pages. This year, I actually bought their planner pages because they were actually perfect for me. All right, so your planner, that goes with the planner calendar, right? You want to get a planner that you're going to enjoy. You see posts all the time about planners, and it's like, oh my gosh, but we have been dreaming on over planners since we were teachers, right? Remember, you wanted to have the best, the nice, the most organized, the prettiest, the one with your name on it. That didn't go away. But this time the tasks look different. So I know Camille shared her leadership plan, which is kind of like her like a teacher's lesson plan. You can use something like that because that will help you stay on track every single day. I created one 3 years ago, 2 years ago that I wanted It was nice, but guess what? It shifted the next year. So every year I'm creating a different planner for what I've learned from the year before because reflection is key. So that and your calendar. Trying to put everything on your calendar is critical. And we've gotten to where I will put in my calendar, I will send out to my leadership team when I'm out so that they know it'll pop up. Joyce isn't here today. So it's like no questions asked. So they need to know where I'm at. I send it in a calendar invite so that it goes to their calendar. Anything that has to do with the school, you put it on the master calendar, but also put it on your calendar. Because I don't know if you're like me, but I need it on my phone while I'm walking around or when I go home, and I need to be able to see it. And I need it to pop up and remind me on my watch, whatever it is. So think about how you're going to take things. And what I mean by take is take that date that went to your head that wrote down on the sticky note or got written down on the paper calendar, and then move that into your master calendar. Are you going to do that on Mondays? Because you can sit down on Monday and make sure you've written out all your dates, and make sure that all of those dates go onto your calendar. Are you going to be able to keep up with that every single day? Are you going to be able to do that every other day? But you need to come with get a routine on how you are going to take your dates and make sure that they are taken from whatever piece of paper you're handed to your calendar and onto your computer calendar, your Outlook calendar, okay? Because you want to make sure you don't miss dates. Over here, it's a big thing. If we miss dates, we get sent to the superintendent. We don't like that, okay? So make sure you're having a system for that. Communicating. Do you have a newsletter? Are you part of the newsletter? Are you sending out, are you vetting communication? Like, are you going to look at the teacher's communication to make sure that it's communicated correctly? Is there a system for that? My old principal, I had to look over any communication that went home. A principal now, not as much, but we're kind of leaning toward possibly doing that just because in some of those like major communications, but there's a system for that too. How are you communicating to your, and a lot of times the principal does this, but sometimes you have to go in and do it at times. But how are you communicating the big picture, the dates ahead to your staff? I will have teachers asking about end of the year due dates in February. A lot of teachers need that. So how are you making sure that those dates are communicated? Okay, think about that. Daily tasks, we talked about this. Those to-dos, those must-dos, emergencies happen. So know how you're going to prioritize and have it written there for you to be able to prioritize those major tasks for each day. Behavior tracking. So I'll tell you what I do. I believe, and you will want to do this, there needs to be a paper trail and you need to document everything. I have had, when I was an ESC teacher, I went home for the summer. I was going off to be an assistant principal. So I was leaving that school. I got a call from my staffing specialist from that school, the principal, and said, we need files from a student to prove that you were doing work with this student because they don't think that he learned enough or something. I don't know. Okay, cool. Bam. Sent it. I had all of my documentation. I saved it all. Arguments done. If you don't, I've had it to where I've had parents ask for attendance records because they will ask that. Okay, cool. Got it. When did you talk to my child? Got it. What did you talk about? Bam, right there. And I'll tell you what I do. And it's not perfect. So if anybody else has a better system, let me know. I don't have one. Okay. A legal pad. You know how many legal pads I have? Because I start them every year and then I get rid of it. Or not, I don't get rid of it because we're documenting, right? I put it away and then start a new one. Every year I have a legal pad. I start a legal pad, and anytime a child comes into my office, I am taking notes. Name, date, teacher. Okay, that's at the top. I am writing down everything that they tell me. These are my notes, okay? My notes, because one, I want to refer to them. I need to refer to them just in case the parent asks me. And when you're about to ask or call a parent, you want to have all of your information. You don't want to call a parent with half information. Like, you just don't want to do that unless it's an emergency and you have to say, hey, I'm about to investigate. Like, we have those where you have to say, hey, your child's being accused of being a bully. So now I'm starting the investigation and I will call you as soon as I get information. But if you have handled a situation and you call the parent and and you don't have the information, they're going to be like, "What? Why are you calling me?" So you want to make sure that you wrote down everything. You've got the kids that you spoke to, what did they say? That's how I organize it. But then if a child needs to write a witness statement, I have them write their side of the story on a witness statement. So now I have notes, ripped out notes. All of my notes go into a folder on that child. Typically, it's the aggressor, however, the one that's coming in with the behavior. Their name is on there, and then the notes go inside. And then on the outside, I'm writing the students involved so that I can see, oh, this child had a situation with this kid in January. This is what we talked about. This is what the parent, now this is me, this is just Joyce, but I like to write down time, date, who I spoke to, the phone number, and how they responded. I don't know, that's just me. So if a parent starts to cuss you out, I'm writing down parent was extremely upset. um, I explained again, parent began to understand, phone call ended, parent understood and was pleased with the outcome. Okay, because I want to know how that parent reacted with that situation so that when I have to call them, if I have to call them again, I like those heads up. I like for people, oh, another thing I want to share. Set your office staff up for success so that it sets you up for success. So establish, if a parent calls, do not send them straight to my voicemail. That's okay, because take a message. That way I can go ask the teacher, why is this parent calling me? I like to be ahead of the game. You will too. Okay? Get ahead of the game. So when you're tracking those behaviors, you're writing down everything so that you can refer to it later. Okay? Anything can happen. Anybody can ask for, like, let's say down the line, and I know we don't like to get into this, but down the line, you talk to this kid in September, and down the line, now this child has um, gotten physically attacked another kid. You need to be able to make those connections and be like, you know what? I did already speak to him in September because he poked a kid. Now we have, increased our behaviors. And so you can kind of make those connections. Okay. You don't have to necessarily talk about it, but you can make those connections so that you can monitor that child. Okay. Due dates, follow up tasks, collecting data. How are you going to do that? I had this amazing data professional development room last year. I was going to have all the data posted up, and it was going to be nice and visual. It's not there anymore. But you need to have some type of system where you're collecting data and you are tracking data and you are visualizing data. Having those three pieces are super nice because it helps with the communication, the big picture, working towards your goals, buy-in, teacher understanding. All of those happen when you have a system for how your data is collected and, like I said, visualized. That can be in a Google Drive. It doesn't have to be on the wall. You can have a nice way where teachers are putting their data, however that works for you. Ours is a little weird, but putting their data or you taking it and putting the data on there, and it's visual. People can go refer to it really quickly because you always want to be able to talk about the data, speak on the data, so you can make those instructional supports in order to make those instructional changes, right? But data, data, data. What does that look like for you? Think of the big picture. Ask your principal what they envision, okay? How do they collect their data? My principal handed me some data he was working on, and I took it and I made it my own. That's it. Like, thank you, great, but I needed it to be how I wanted it. So I took those numbers and I color coded them and I made them into what I needed because I want to be able to look at that data and understand it so that I can communicate it. Observations, you're going to be observing teachers. What does that look like? Don't wait, Okay. As soon as you know, and you want to know, who are you observing? You want to know that quickly. So in that conversation, you can ask that early on, or you can wait a little bit, but don't wait too long, because you want to know whose classrooms you are going to be going into and taking or evaluating, right? What does observation look like in your school? Are you guys observing classrooms every single day? Are you expected to go into classes daily, weekly, only when it's time to evaluate? What does that look like? Because that's a cultural thing. If your principal goes into the classroom only during evaluations and you go in there every single day, that's a little off, right? Not saying that it's wrong, because you've set that relationship and your staff now knows that when you come in there, it's not evaluative, it's you want to be in there. But sometimes that becomes, it does for us, right? Like, I'm going to be honest. My feedback is a little different than my principal's feedback. And that becomes an ongoing thing, like, oh, well, we don't, well, we do. And it's like, okay, guys, but I have that relationship with the people that I observe. So they know that I do this because I believe in it, or I do this because it actually impacts student achievement and teacher pedagogy. Like, that's why I do it. It's not because I want to, because I don't want to do this, but this is my leadership philosophy, right? And that's okay, but it does happen. So you have to be careful and maybe have that conversation so that it's like, okay, they understand this is what you want to do and what you're expecting to do. You want to be in classrooms every single day. You want to observe kindergarten, first and second grade. I was only over 3, 4, 5. So I rarely got into K1, 2, because I was always in 3, 4, 5, whereas my principal was always in K1, 2 and rarely got in 3, 4, 5, right? But this year we're mixing it up. But that's another thing, it's having those conversations. It's important to know what that looks like and how you're tracking your observations, because you don't want to get to the last minute and now all of a sudden you've got to do 30 observations in 2 weeks. Okay. I created a chart. So it has all of my teachers' names, all of the observations that I have to do. And then inside each of those squares, I'm able to put in the date that I did it or the anticipated date. Like, for instance, when we're doing observations and they are the actual formal observations, you have your pre, your observation, and your post. So I will put the date for the pre, right? The date for the observation, date for the post, even though they probably haven't happened yet, right? But the date is there so that I can organize my time. So this year, what I did was I did something that we did when I was an instructional coach. We had it as a poster, because then we all were marking when we went in and signing off when we went in. I did that for myself just because I'm visual, and I created a poster and I had the dates up there. And I didn't mark any like applying, beginning, developing, anything like that. I just marked the dates or checked it off. Okay. It was just a visual, but I knew that's how I was tracking all of the observations that I needed to do. Meeting agendas, what does that look like? I think meeting agendas should all look the same. Okay, they should all look the same so that it's easy for people to understand, read, and it's a flow. What do your meeting agendas look like? What do they look like now? Is there anything that you can do to make it better? Because you're not going in there to just all of a sudden be like, this is how we're doing it, but you are so welcome, you should be, if you have a good principal, to give suggestions. Okay. So if you see something like that, be like, hey, look, I thought this form, like I saw this form. I do that all the time. Find stuff on Facebook or somewhere. Hey, I saw this. What do you think about this? Yes or no? Okay. But you want to know want to see what that looks like. And okay, big one. You are going to be stopped multiple times a day in the hallway when you're doing something, whether you're going to the restroom, because that will happen too. Walking in the restroom, somebody has to tell you something. I'm going to use the restroom. I'm not going to remember this. So my staff, my teachers know, and I still say it, but they know. They might tell me something in the hallway. Joyce has forgot. Joyce has forgotten walking, because I'm not going to my office. I'm going to go observe a class, or I'm going to go do help in the cafeteria, see what's going on in the cafeteria, get a student. So I'm going to forget. So I'll say, you know what I'm about to say? And they'll be like, okay, I'll send you an email. They know. You do things out of love with a smile. It just sets the expectation. Not saying you can't tell me, but just know I'm going to forget. Charge it to my brain and not my heart. Are you going to walk around with a notepad all the time? Yes. Are you going to have your phone and you're going, sometimes I do that. I'll have my phone, I'll say, let me email myself real quick, just so that they don't have to think about it, or we're both going separate ways. And I'll say, okay, let me send I'll send myself an email right now. What are you going to do when you are told information in the hallway and you're not going back to your office? Because guess what? You could be going back to your office and you might get stopped again. So, what is your procedure for that? What's your expectation? And share it. It's okay to have an expectation. It's okay to be forgetful. They know and they appreciate it, and they run back to their classrooms and they send me an email and we laugh about it. I'll respond, thank you, smiley face. Okay. Any questions so far? Any thoughts? You want me to elaborate or anything? All right, cool. If so, I'm monitoring the chat, so let me know. Okay, so tip number 5 is studying the data of the school. Like I said, my principal has been working on data. I know I do data. Like, I don't know why, but I don't know which one's right, so I just say them both in the same sentence. Okay, so he was working on some data because I was working on scheduling, and our scores just came out. So we had to kind of like figure out, so you go do that. I got to get these kids scheduled because the deadline was Thursday. So he did that and then gave me the data, and then I made it my own because again, I am who I am. I color coded it, made the charts like where I can see it, and I posted it on my corkboard. But there's no way I'm going to remember that, right? There's no way. I'm going to think about the trends. So like for instance, if I know we did really good this year though, by the way, just so you know. So like literally we had 50% gain or so, and I had said 20 in a application I did, but I was like, what a minute? Oh shoot. Okay. So we had some really awesome gains. Okay. I can remember that. I can't tell you our ELA achievement in 3rd grade right now. I can tell you my math achievement in 4th grade is 93% because that was a standout number, right? But if I'm just thinking about trends, like, okay, I remember 4th grade did awesome. That number's probably I'm gonna remember that number. I'm going to remember certain things. So you kind of like remembering names. When you remember people's names, you kind of look at what is their hair color, what shirt do they have on, things like that. What does it rhyme with? You want to look at your data and start thinking about that. Like, how can I remember the numbers, or at least close to those numbers, so you can give a general response? Because you don't want to just be like, and you don't want to just talk out, the air or whatever. So you want to kind of have a general understanding, or you can put it in multiple places. You want to know your school's data because you want to be able to help support those goals, because now you've made goals. Your principal at least has some goals somewhere, whether they're in the school improvement plan or they're written down on their desk. They have some kind of goals. They should, right? So those goals are going to be tied to data. So if you know the data, then you can support the goals. If I know that, we're still working on our ELL gains because we only increased our ELL gains by 10%, but yet we increased our student with disability gains, or vice versa, our student with disability gains by 10%, but we increased our ELL gains by 60. Okay, so that's something I need to be able to support. So that's going to help me as a leader to say, all right, maybe I need to come up with some kind of creative system to support my teachers, my resource teachers. Or maybe that's where my focus is, and I come up with this awesome plan and my focus for this year, and I present it. And that's how I'm going to stand out and make an impact on this school. You got to know your data to do that. But you also, I'm big on visuals. I had a visual from when I was an MTSS coach, and MTSS is multi-tiered systems of support, or you might think of it as RTI, interventions. And so I was tracking all 800 students, right? Because that was my job. I needed to know the tier 1 instruction, I needed to know the tier 2, and then I was helping support and implementing tier 3 instruction. So we would have our planning meetings when we came with our common assessments and the data, and I had a card for each kid, like a 4x4 card. It had a picture of them. It had their reading level, whether they're above, at, or below. Okay. It had any subgroup that they were in or supports that they were receiving, and it had the teacher's name and they were color coded by grade level. I had those charts all over my office. And what we would do is when we had those meetings, we would move those students. So if they scored in green, they stayed in green. If they scored in red on this assessment, they moved down to red because they were those red, yellow, green, or green, yellow, red charts. That was a way for me to visualize and to have conversations, those data driven conversations. So, what does that look like? When I moved to this school, like I said, I created that professional development room and data was going up, and then having those questions there to guide those data driven conversations. So the data needs to be present and you need to have some type of action that you're going to do with the data. So how are you going to support your planning, your common planning meetings, your PLCs, your professional learning communities? How are you supporting those huge areas of school and of academic achievement? Like, what are you doing, right? Are you tracking non-academic data with early warning systems? We were working in our school improvement plan, and my principal couldn't find our early warning systems. Well, as an assistant principal, we kind of go through some other types of trainings, or we have more ongoing and, assistant principal of instruction trainings. So I knew, oh, that data is over here. It used to be here. They used to give it to you, but now it's over here. That was early warning systems. That was attendance data and suspension data and course, like if course failure data. You need to know those too, okay? Because those help you to be able to set goals and on other data that impacts student achievement. Attendance impacts student achievement. You need to know your attendance data. Suspensions impact student achievement. You need to know your suspension data. You need to know the student who is being suspended more than once because that's problematic. You need to put some supports in place. All right. So what else? Are you able to give effective, actionable feedback to teachers in order to positively impact their instructional practice? Like that's a major one. That's non. That's what am I saying? Oh my gosh, I can't even think of the word right now. That's qualitative data, not quantitative data. So you want to take some of that as well. Like what feedback are you giving them? What kind of data or feedback have they received? Is it helping? So if you have an observation tool that allows you to pull those reports, okay? See what trends you've seen with teachers. Are they scoring at highly effective or whatever your scoring is? And yet when you walk in there, now that you're on campus, their instruction is horrible. Okay. Take that data, figure out how you're going to give feedback. What does that look like? Are you giving feedback verbally? Are you going in with a notepad and leaving a note? Are you putting it in the system? Those are all things you want to make sure that you are thinking about. Okay. Any questions? I know that was a lot. So I feel like it was a lot. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, Joyce. But again, this is to just be a support. So like if I can come on here and give you tips and if I think of something and I jump on here and I share it with you, then that's the whole point of this. Um, I also, like I said earlier, I created the mentorship manual and I'm sharing it because it is a good tool. So even if you don't have a mentor, you can go through this manual and you can see some of those major points that you need to be focusing on. Building relationships, understanding your why, do not lose that. You can't. This job is not easy. Understanding your why, what it looks like to look at data and to understand data. You want to go through data with someone, okay? If you don't have training on data, you need to find a friend that can sit down and help you to look at data and to make some decisions because that's what we do, okay? But the manual helps with that. I don't know where it went. So it's on, maybe, bam, it's right here. So you can look at it, you can go through it and see. And again, I wrote it last year with the idea to help the assistant principal. I try to support, and if you have any questions, guys, if you want to DM me or message me and ask a question or follow up from this, take some of these tips, do your best. This job is so hard, but it is so rewarding. You worked very hard to get your position. You've got it. Now you go into that school and you shine. You be kind, you be helpful, you be um, humble. That's what I really want to say. Humble, okay? You will not know a lot of things. That's okay. What I said earlier was you want to know some of this stuff. You want to be able to be learning continuously so that when you do go in, you don't feel defeated. You feel confident, okay? Not overly confident. And it could be confidently like wrong, okay? It could be confidently I'm gonna get back to you, right? But I'm doing it with a smile, and I am going to go find that answer, and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna say, hey, look what I found out. That was a great question. I really appreciate you asking me because I'm still learning. I said that so many times, like, oh yeah, I'm still learning. I am still learning. Like, we're always learning. I don't know everything, right? Someone messaged me today and asked me a question, and I forgot. So I went and did my due diligence, and I said, yep, that's it. That's okay. It's okay to say I don't know, but I don't know right now. Just like with kids, it's that growth mindset. You don't know right now, but you will know because you're going to go find out. Ask questions. I still see principals not asking questions. And I'm like, look, who cares if you don't know? They probably don't know either, but they might know someone who does know. So go ask questions. My dad taught me that as a kid. Ask questions, Joyce. Don't sit there and be like, do. Someone else will ask. No, you go ask, figure it out. Get that Rolodex, okay? Get the Rolodex of the numbers you can call for help. There are people that work in other positions. I won't say higher because they're not necessarily higher because we're all working together, right? But in other positions that are there to help you. Figure those numbers out and put them down. Put them in your planner, put them by your phone. If I need to call anything when it comes to busing, who do I call? If I have a discipline question, who do I call? If I have a substitute question, who do I call? Budget, hiring. You need to know who to call. A lot of times people go to the principal, but the principal may come to you and say, hey, I don't know something. And I'm like, okay, go call this person. Bam, you helped. Okay. So call, ask a friend, phone a friend, get your square. Know the people that you can trust. You cannot trust everyone. I've learned that. That was actually a big lesson I learned this past year. It's fine. You can't trust everybody. So you have to be very careful with what you share and who you share with. But there are people, especially outside of the school building, that you need to find that you can share and vent to. Sometimes they just happen to be outside the school building because it just comes with the territory. If you're fortunate enough to have someone in the building you can trust, that's wonderful. But just be careful, okay? All right, any questions? Okay, so now I'm gonna figure out how to do another one because this is like a high, right? Like adrenaline rush. Um, so I will definitely this won't be the last. So if you're in the group, I appreciate you guys collaborate, ask questions, support one another. If I share anything, I appreciate the feedback and the support. You guys are awesome. I'm proud of you. Look, this year is coming. We are about to kill it. We are going to be, I feel so good about this year because I have all of you. Okay. And you guys are making my life that much better. All right. You guys have a great night. And if you need anything, I'm here. All right, take care. Oh, good. I'm glad. That's the thing. You have to. You gotta find someone or people that empower you and inspire you. Like I still am finding that. I still am too. You guys are welcome. No problem. I'm really excited for you all. If you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram and Twitter too, because I'm trying to like, I don't know how people get followers, but it's like I can do different things on Instagram. That's why I put that post up because I feel like I can be fun. In the Facebook group, I feel like if I put something fun, I don't, it's just like, oh, but I can be fun in Instagram. All right, I'm gonna close it out. You guys have a great night.